Welcome to the Sweets Coffee Tasting. Today it happens to be Ortega, which is a region within Colombia. There are 35 smallholders that put into this cooperative, and the cultivar is mixed. So there's a bunch of different cultivars that the smallholders produce that would come in together, and we denote it as a mixed cultivar. It's washed about 24 hours in fermentation tanks and 3 washed cycles after that. They then go on to raised African beds to go through the drying. It's grown at just over 1,800 meters above sea level across the collective farms. And it's a delight. It was a delight to roast, and it's a delight to be able to brew it as well. So, a washed coffee from Colombia requires a certain methodology when you roast. Every coffee has a certain methodology that you need to apply when you roast. Now, with the ProBat, there is a singular batch size that I choose. This happens to be a 12 kilo roaster. I put in 9 kilo batches. I tend to get, or I've over a period of time found that I get the best fidelity out of that batch size. The roast times on the ProBat at the minute, I have some degree of comfort between 10 and 11 minutes. That's where I find the greatest degree of balance for the majority of the coffees that I roast. It's a washed coffee, little tiny beans, very dense, so I wanted to hit it with as much energy as I could early on. Now, I always leave a little bit of headroom in gas when I'm roasting, so I wouldn't necessarily be using 100% all of the time. But with this, I started the first exploration batch with 90% of the gas available. The 3 subsequent batches that I ran, I pushed to 95%. Just because I wanted the roast to be a little quicker, and there was a certain shape in the curve that I was trying to look for. Going to the curve, I like an ever declining rate of rise curve on my bean probe. So that is something that I look for as I'm roasting, and there are certain things that I try to mitigate through the roast, just to avoid roast defects. This coffee was roasted in roughly 10.5 minutes. There was a 1:35 development time, which for a washed coffee is a nice balance between sweetness, texture, and acidity, certainly on the ProBat, and I found different on the Loring. Discussion about that at another day. I wanted to bring out juicy acidity, so that's where a lot of that early on gas assists. But I also wanted to get some degree of balance as well. So that's why I allowed the roast times to be about 10.5 minutes. Let's have a taste. Wow, okay. So, sticky sweetness, real syrupy mouthfeel. It's a light medium body, but very, very syrupy and sticky. The prevalent overarching flavor characteristic with this is caramel. There's a touch of brown sugar, but more caramel than brown sugar. And then as far as the fruit descriptors go, stone fruits, both purple stone fruits and orange stone fruits as well. So there's not an amount of citrus that you tend to find in Colombian coffees. Like orange is a thing in Colombian coffees, I find, but this happens to be well into the stone fruit spectrum of fruits. So we've used plum and apricot. It could be nectarine, definitely apricot, because apricot as a fruit is a little sweeter and a little stickier, and I think that as a flavor descriptor pairs well with the caramel descriptor. And then the stone fruit, the purple stone fruit thing could almost be a little bit of red apple as well, like the red apple skin. But it's a delight. It was really lovely to roast, but pretty easy to roast, to be fair. There wasn't anything really that hit me as a problem as I was roasting through it. And that's something that I tend to find that I get when it's a community lot. When you've got a single cultivar and a single farm, you are more exposed to any idiosyncrasies that particular coffee may have. As soon as you start broadening out into regional community style lots, where there are mixed cultivars, you tend to find that inside of the roasting drum, those mixed cultivars display a more homogeneous way of accepting heat. Anyway, that's what I found. It's a little different in the Loring, but I will describe the difference between the two roasting platforms at another date. Anyway, to recap, community lot from Colombia, Ortega, 35 smallholders put into the cooperative, washed, 1,800 meters above sea level, mixed cultivar, a delight in the cup, syrupy sweet, lots of caramel, stone fruits in the purple, red and orange spectrum. Would be great in all methods of brewing, including espresso. Come and buy it. Cheers.